Everything started from me when I heard one single loud bang right behind me, and I was in the VIP suites, so was Anthony. Okay. And this is a single loud, huge bang right behind me, and I turn around and look, and I see that someone has fallen, and the group of people that were with this person is helping her up or trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm observing this as well, you know, and then maybe 40 seconds later, some shooting goes off on the crowd, and that's when it was like automatic gunfire, completely different from the first one. But anyway, I took off running once I saw the open fire on the crowd, and it started making sense, and people were running and screaming. I took off. I lost all of my friends. So when I ran out from the VIP suites, because that's where me and all my friends were, but I ran out and hid behind one of the trailers that are the VIP suites.
In the opposite direction of the Mandalay.
Yeah, and I had to jump over 2 different fences that are extremely high. Scratched myself from that, but I jumped over 2 different fences. I ended up jumping in some random guy's car who bust through another gate that I think ended up leading to the airport hangar. Okay. I ended up on an airport tarmac, if that's what you call it.
Right.
And we broke into the hangar. But the whole time I was running, people are still screaming, running, and it's as if someone's chasing you. I don't understand why people will keep running, and why would I keep running if the shots are still getting louder? It sounded like someone was chasing us, someone was on the ground. That's what doesn't make sense to me, and why I'm searching for answers is because I wouldn't keep running if I didn't think there was a threat coming. So it's upsetting that I'm not getting the answers I want, and the bullets sounded louder, and I have multiple friends that attest to that they felt like they were being chased. I'm just unsatisfied, with the news that has been reported. I've obviously been watching everything and trying to research myself, but it just doesn't make sense. How are you gonna not talk to the people that were there? I'm not the only one that thinks that they're being chased, and I listened to my friend's story after I met up with them. Again, I lost all of them afterwards, and I met up with them 2 days later and heard their stories, and they said the exact same thing.
When we split up and we both were heading, she went off on her own, but I was able to stay with one of our mutual girlfriends, and when we were on our way exiting and going over those 2 fences, we headed towards the airport also, and after we had hopped the first wall that we hit, at one point, one of my girlfriends looked at me and she goes, "Does it sound like it's getting closer?" And I said, "Yeah." And at that point, I grabbed her hand and we started praying in this bush that we were hiding in.
At the airport?
We weren't at the airport yet, because as we were running, we were hiding in landscape, because you could only go 5 or 10 yards and then you had to take cover.
Yeah, that you kept I switched where I hid 5 times.
Yeah,
because who does that unless you feel like you're about to fucking die, like someone's coming towards you?
We went through a lot, but it's interesting because I've talked to everyone that was in our group.
How many people?
There was about 8 of us at that time, and I've also talked to other friends of mine that were there that I didn't know was there until recently, and everyone that was on the ground that I've spoken to, we all know what we heard, and there's a difference between an echo and different firepower.
That also would correlate with a bunch of people telling me, and close friends telling me, that there was shootings up and down the strip. It would make sense as well. You're confusing the whole strip, which would make the police have a delayed response. They're responding to so many different calls, and it sounded very close. Let me give you an example. When it first started going off in the crowd, the first place I looked was in the middle of the crowd, and that's where people were freaking out, and it was very loud to what's ground level. And as I was running and as I was listening to people run, everybody was saying shooters, shooters. Nobody said Mandalay Bay. Nobody thought it was coming from the building at all.
Could you smell gunpowder? Could you smell?
I couldn't. I actually have a friend, though, that was there bartending at that event, and I have her message from her because I asked her about it, and she said she could smell gunpowder.
It doesn't seem like you'd be able to smell gunpowder from guns being fired up in the room.
No. And what makes sense to me, I can't prove a lot of this. I can only prove what I know. What makes sense to me is, though, when I was running further away and I ended up in the airport tarmac, the whole time I was running, though, why would the bullets be getting louder, coming from different directions? I constantly kept moving, and as you've heard from my friend, and I'm sure all my other friends would attest to this, we had to keep moving hiding spots, and I climbed over several different fences because we thought we were being chased, and it sounded like it was getting louder. And then there's other videos where you see people walking down the strip and they're just casually walking after the shooting went off. It's because they didn't think nothing was behind them anymore. You know what I mean?
Your instincts were telling you to run.
Yeah, and you should listen to that. You should listen to your instincts. Like, my adrenaline was so high, but I know what I heard, and I went into survival mode. Everybody did.
Did you see any shell casings on the ground?
Not from, like, I took off so quick, but the fact that I did that, like, and I felt like I was still being chased, it makes sense. Maybe there was a shooter over by where those big tanks are, or I don't know how to say it, Giles and Reno, the streets that are right before the airport, because that's where we ended up running past the car. The cars were parked right outside. I don't know if that was employee parking for the event, or anyway, ran through that and ended up in the airport. The only thing that I know for sure, and that's why I think it's important to listen to eyewitnesses and people who were there, is it didn't sound like one shooter, and it didn't sound like one shooter coming from the 32nd floor. I'm not having PSD from people dying. I'm pissed because I don't have the answers that I want, and it doesn't make sense. Me and my stepdad actually took a woman home once he finally picked me up, which he picked me up on Paradise and Tropicana. That's how far I ended up. And he took this woman home, and she had to go home to her friend's house that she was staying with in Henderson, but her friends were still in lockdown at the Tropicana, and they were saying there was a shooter at the Tropicana. So it's like, not like, you know, this was all happening. People that were there know all this stuff already, but like, if you're only watching the news from Pennsylvania or wherever you live, like, you're only going to hear what they hear. But people in Vegas, this is real for them, and they know what they heard when they were running. They know that several casinos had lockdowns, several places had supposed shootings out front, because I know tons of people in Vegas. I met a girl the other night, though, that randomly, she was like, oh my God, you were there, because she heard me talking about it. And I was like, oh, were you? And she's like, no, I wasn't there, but I was at the Bellagio. And she told me her story, which I thought was really interesting. And I actually have an email from her, but she said that people were screaming active shooters there. And I actually haven't read the full write-up she told me, but it was the other night, so I don't remember fully. But she said that there was active shooters in Bellagio, and they made her like run to the back, you know. And this is a young girl. Like, people don't have like a reason to lie about a tragic event, so it's not like people are making stuff up, you know.